Hello guys, welcome to this new session. This is the last session in the functions. So in this session we'll talk and add the concept of native functions. It's the functions that built in the language. So it will help us to extend our language, extend the capability of the language. We need to implement a function that is defined by default and functions that is standards, the function that is built in the language, so the developer make its life more easier. So let's go and jump right to object.h, and we will add a new object called the native, and we'll add something called a function pointer. So the function pointer will be, so the native function is a function that returns a value into the stack, and it accepts two parameters. The first one is the argument count, and the second one is the list of arguments. So let's add the usual macros is native value and is object type value object native, and also let's add, we'll define as native so it will return the native function objects, and we pass the value and get function. Okay, so let's add that type object native. So let's add the function that creates the object native, new native. It accepts native function, pointer to a function, and we'll pass that function. So let's go to object.c and let's add, we'll printf, if the object is native, we'll printf native fn, and that's it. So let's continue and implement the function that return native object. So native function, and let's create the object native. I will allocate that object native, and native for the function is the function pass a parameter, and then I will return that native one. So that's it here. So let's go to memory to free the memory from native object, case object native, and I will free objects native and objects native object. And let's break. So that's it. So let's go to the VM. Let's see, and let's add in the call value function that handles the calls. So the native function will directly be called. So what I need to do is case object native, so I will create native function and I will call macro as native, past callee, and what I need to do is to sort the result in the variable result, and I will call the native because that it's a function. I will call it by passing the argument count, and the list of arguments is the list of arguments is the top stack, where is the pointer on the top stack, minus the argument count, and that will point at the first argument. So I will update the top stack because here the native function will finish execution. Then I will update the top stack like a return. So I will do vn top stack minus arg count minus 1, and then I will push the results into the stack, and then I will return true. So let's add a function that define a native function. So static void define native, and I will take the name of the native function, and also I need the function pointer. So I will create the key from the name by using copy string function name, and I will pass the string length, and I will create a native object and that native object will create native object based on the function, the pointer to the function, and then I will set the globals hash table by the key and the object val of that native. So far so good. So when I need to call, so let's make a function let's make a native function. It's called clock, and this function will calculate time in seconds. So I will include a time.h header, and I will create a native function called, let's do it here, I will create a native function called value clock native, and it accepts arg count and a pointer to the arguments. So I will return a number val, and I will use a function defined in the C library, the time library. So I will divide that by clocks per sec. So in order to get times in second, so I need to call the define native function in init VM. So I will do define native, and I will name it wherever I want, but in our end language I will name it clock, and the function is clock native. So that's it. So let's rebuild the project and see if all is good. So make clone, make all. So everything is good. So let's create a sample that use this native function. So I will make a function, say hello, and this function it will print hello. This is normal things message, and I will call that say hello, hello and developers with a smiley face. So let's call now. I need to know how much time needed to execute this program. So I will set a variable start on the native function clock that we defined. So it's a native function. So as you see guys, here we don't have the definition because this function is a native function. We add it and we load it into the globals table of the VM. So also I will set the end by doing clock, and finally I will print execution time is, and I will print the end minus the start. So also let's print the start, and let's print a new line. Also here let's print the end, and also let's print a new line. Okay guys, so let's cut that example and let's do add sample. So as you see guys, we have the time of the starting, the start time, and we have the message hello and developers, and also we have the end time and the execution time. So let's make a print new line here. So as you see guys, this is the program. This is the native function clock, and as you see it does what it does. It returns the time for the start and the end, and finally it prints the execution time by doing just subtracting the last time from the beginning of the time. So guys, let's go to command.h and let's uncomment these to see the debugging. So let's build the project, and so let's execute that another time to see what happened in the runtime. So this is the bytecode. The first time we call this function. So get global, it's the clock function is a native function, so it sees it as a global variable, and then we call that. So as you see here, we have native function. So the native function is called and it returned that time. So the second time we have we do a print hello developers, and what we did, we also called the native function that returned this time in seconds, and then we did the subtraction here. So as you can see, guys, so if you go to the VMDC, you can add whatever function you want. So what thing you need to respect is to respect that the native function should return always some value and accept two arguments. The first one is the argument count, and the second one is the list of arguments. So guys, that's it, and we've developed a native function that extend our language, so you can add whatever function you want, and it will be so useful. So that's it, and I think we need more native functions, like functions for reading input from users and so on. So we can't do it in this session. So so as I said, native function, it extends the capability of our language. And that's it, guys. See you in another session, and we continue developing our Ant language.